Today I wanted to talk about gun laws, and specifically, I wanted to talk about gun laws in Pakistan. And the reason I want to do that, it's a kind of a long and convoluted path to get there, is I had some friends visit from out of state. Here in the U.S., gun laws vary from state to state. And I noticed that some of their laws were a little more restrictive than ours, and ours are extremely restrictive. And it made me wonder about gun laws around the world and in different places. And I saw that I have a lot of views from people in Pakistan, India, and that area. So I wonder what their gun laws are there, why they would be interested in what we have here in the U.S. So I started looking into it, and it's very similar actually. And anyone from Pakistan who sees this, if you find that I'm wrong on something or if I've missed something, please let me know. I would really like to hear from you. But from what I can gather from having studied a few cases and what I could find on the laws is that there is a general overarching structure in Pakistan, just like our federal system here. Certain things are prohibited, certain things aren't, but basically everything is kind of allowed within reason. And the rest of it is left up to the states, or provinces rather, areas, tribal areas. There's many different groupings in Pakistan as I understand it. So your regional area may have different laws than what other regions will have, just like here in the United States. So they even are allowed to have automatic weapons if they're registered, just like here in the States where if you have an automatic weapon you have to pay monies, be registered, etc. Same thing there. The one thing I could not find any information on is whether or not suppressors, silencers, whatever you want to call them, are legal in Pakistan. Once again, if someone could let me know, I would very much like to know. I did see that concealed carry seems to be the carry of choice for most of their areas. But I did find it interesting that they, in 2018, from what I've seen, in January of 2018, they wanted to prohibit one of the two types of licenses that are allowed in Pakistan. Those two types are prohibited bore and standard. That doesn't actually mean the bore diameter of the firearm. What it means is what it is. And by that confusing sentence, I mean that your prohibited bore are your automatic weapons, your artillery, etc., whereas your standard bore are everything else. They tried to ban them in January of 2018, said that everyone had to either make them fire semi-automatic or turn them in, and by December of that same year, they had put a stop to that law and re-allowed them. And some sources that I read said that they're no longer issuing new licenses in some provinces for the prohibited bores, but I also read sources that say in the tribal areas and other areas that they're issuing them just on basis. They're just continuing to do it. From what I did read, the application process for buying a new firearm seems to be a little bit more stringent than even here in New York. From what I read, you have to fill out about 4 different types of paperwork, have it registered, get approval, buy it from an approved arms dealer. So that's not uncommon here in the States to have a regulation like that on certain types of firearms. It's, for instance, in my home state, you have to have registered any handgun with your local authorities and courts and things. Some areas you don't have to, but in most states you do. Long guns here in my state you can buy from anyone as long as you pass a background check, and in Pakistan it seems to basically be similar. Obviously there's always going to be private sales of firearms. From what I read, private sales from an individual to an individual in Pakistan appear to be illegal, but just like here in the States, I'm sure it happens. There is some very interesting stuff that I've seen there. One of the things that I found was interesting is that the import, export, and purchase of firearms, from what I read, seems to be controlled by the Pakistani government, whereas here in the United States, it's not necessarily controlled. It's more of a protective, hey, you have to have X amount of parts made in the U.S. or you have to pay a special import duty. which is obviously passed on to the consumer, but there doesn't seem to be that in Pakistan. I did find it interesting that there are laws in Pakistan allowing foreign residents in Pakistan to own firearms. That's something that's extremely rare here in the United States. Aliens generally do not own firearms. If they do, it's a lot of paperwork involved. So I thought that was interesting. I even found some cases where foreigners had accidentally, and when I say accidentally, we all know what that means, had guns sent to them while they were living in Pakistan, and the Pakistani government was very understanding and didn't send them to jail forever like some other places would. But the overarching theme that I saw is it's very similar to our gun laws here, and the gun culture seems to be fairly similar. The one thing I did find odd was for such a place with what appear to be such free gun laws, there's a very low official firearm count. According to the sources I could find, in Pakistan there's between 11 and 23 guns per every 100 citizens. Here in the States, there's 120 firearms per 100 citizens. So it's a big difference. One of the things I did seem to see was that certain firearms tend to be more prevalent there. I don't know if there's a heavy hunting culture in Pakistan. I would assume with mountains and areas like that there obviously is, just like here in the States there's a heavy hunting culture. It's definitely something I find very interesting with seeing how loose their regulations are, compared to Western countries in general. I'm surprised there's not more firearm ownership, and I tip my hat to you guys in Pakistan for keeping such good gun laws. I think everyone, everywhere, should be able to own a firearm. So that's pretty awesome of you guys. And like I said, if I've missed anything, or if there's anything I misunderstood, or if the laws are actually way more restrictive than what I seem to understand, I would love you guys to let me know. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you.